you.
You're gone.
Okay, now the cue, you may start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad that you could make it. I'm Karen Sullivan, publisher of Warwick Books, and we're happy to see you here tonight to celebrate the launch of two absolutely incredible Icelandic authors, Eva Bjorg Aegisdottir and her startlingly accomplished and award-winning debut, The CREAK on the Stairs. It's the first in the Forbidden Iceland series, and you are in for a treat. Along with lovely Eva, we have Victoria Cribb coming to us live from Austria. Can you wave, Vicky? Vicky Cribb, she said she wouldn't answer to Victoria, so apologies. And a long-standing, immensely talented and hugely popular member of Team Arenda, we have Lilja Sigurdardottir here, who is going to talk to us about her jaw-droppingly brilliant, sophisticated, breathtakingly clever standalone thriller, Betrayal. And if you liked her Reykjavik Noir trilogy, you are absolutely going to love this one. And joining us from the south of England is Lilja's translator, Quentin. Quentin, can you give us, Quentin Bates, he's going to give us a little wave, I think.
Just did.
Brilliant. And leading the proceedings tonight is the one and only Dr. Noir, Jacky Collins. She's the founder of Newcastle Noir Crime Festival and a crime fiction aficionado, which is a mouthful, try saying that. So Jacky is a former senior lecturer at Northumbria University, as she just pointed out. It's the COVID hotspot university at the moment. She lectured in literature, TV and film, and Spanish language and culture. She's currently based at Stirling University in Scotland, which is where she's hailing from now. Or are you in Edinburgh, Jacky?
I am in Edinburgh this evening.
You're in Edinburgh this evening. Okay, and Jacky also co-hosts a fortnightly crime fiction radio program on Spice FM. She hosts literary events with Honey and Stag events team, and she's a member of the Warwick Books team, who publish crime fiction from Iceland, Romania, and other countries in translation. Now, we are in very good hands tonight, very clearly. But before I turn you over to Jacky, I just wanted to mention a few things. First of all, our partner bookshop tonight is the incredible Warwick Books. This is a favorite bookshop of ours since we took our Arenda Roadshow there during the Beast from the East several years ago. And Mog and Pauline have been amazingly supportive of us. So we're honored to support them in return. So signed copies of both Betrayal and The CREAK on the Stairs are available exclusively from Warwick Books. And we'd love it if you could point your purchases in their direction. And as you know, independent bookshops are going through a difficult period, as are independent publishers, and need all the help that they can get. And this goes a long way to being towards keeping great bookshops on our high streets and great books in your hands, something a little outside the normal. So you can tweet them at Warwick Books, quite literally. You can visit them at www.warwickbooks.net or email them on info@warwickbooks.net. Again, these are exclusive signed copies of first editions of two of the most exciting books you will ever read. We'd also like to thank the Icelandic Literature Centre, who have shown us enormous support in providing a translation grant so that we could get Vicky and Quentin doing their job so beautifully, and we're enormously grateful for that. We would like to thank the Icelandic Embassy too for their constant support. Unfortunately, this is one of the first times that we haven't been able to hold a launch at their wonderful embassy in London, but we will be back with our cupcakes, and we will celebrate properly when we can. I'd also really like to thank Vala and David Headley, the two extraordinary super agents who put these amazing authors into my hands, and yours, in fact. But now I'm going to hand things over to Jacky. If you have a question at any point, there's a Q&A facility. I think you can find it at the bottom of your screen. Let me just check. Yep. Or you can send us a message via chat, and we'll leave lots of time at the end to go through it. But if there's something pressing, we can get to it during the course of this. So without further ado, I'm going to say congratulations to Eva, to Lilja, to Vicky, and to Quentin, and your books are launched. Over to you, Jacky.
Oh, Karen, thank you so much. Just a big shout out to everybody who's with us tonight here for a fabulous launch. We were just saying before we came on, really, we should be there tonight in London at the Icelandic Embassy, and we all know that that's not possible. So really thankful to FMCM Associates and Karen Arenda for making sure that we can actually do this, at least not physically together, but we can be together on the Zoom. And as Karen said, please, anybody who's with us and watching, do pop your questions through and you know, just get into conversation with the authors and their translators. I feel like it's Christmas and birthday and book flood and New Year all rolled into one, because this is the perfect kind of book evening for me anyway. I'm biased. I love crime in translation, and if it's Icelandic crime fiction in translation, then it's the best that there is. And you know, it's that idea that, you know, authors just pop up and we then get their books. And I'm thinking especially for Eva Bjorg tonight, you know, because your debut novel that we're celebrating, and Lilja, I wonder if you can remember when it was your debut novel in English that was out, the excitement that's there. We've got 2 award-winning authors on you know, in the Zoom room, which is fabulous. 2 glorious translators. You know, seriously, I'm going to give you 2 a little grilling as well about what you do, because I'm fascinated and ever so grateful. So without further ado, I'm not going to do long rambling introductions. I'll do this as we go along and tease things out of you, authors and translators. But Eva Bjorg, if I might come to you first, and for those people who don't know, you were born in Akranes, but you went away from there after your studies, went to Norway, and then came back. Lilja, not only are you a crime writer, but you also were born in Akranes, went away all around the world, and then came back. And I think it's interesting because I'm going to ask you both about the notion of coming back, because that's in your books as well. Your 2 main protagonists come back after being away, and what that means and why you included that. But Eva Bjorg, congratulations on last year winning the Blackbird Prize, the prize that is for a debut in Icelandic crime fiction. Do you want to tell us just a little bit of that and how that felt?
It was a huge stepping stone for me to win that prize for my first book, and because it was a prize hosted by Ragnar Jónasson and Lilja Sigurdardottir, so it was a great honor to get that, and I think it gave me a lot of extra attention, and also they introduced me to David Hadley, that helped me seal deals out in UK. So
excellent. And it was the Creak on the Stairs that was your debut novel in Iceland, and that's what we've got now. Now, Lilja, for you, your prize winning has taken you, you've won the Icelandic crime fiction prize twice, have you not? The Blood Drop.
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have. Wonderful, wonderful. That takes you then to be Iceland's representative for the Glass Key.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was, you got the Blood Drop for Cage, last in the trilogy, and then you won it recently for Betrayal, the book that we're celebrating tonight. So I love the fact that these 2 books have already been hugely successful. And I know from feedback that's already out there, you know, people that have read these 2 books just say, you know, they're hot property. And seriously, people watching, honestly, if you haven't yet, you really need to get these books. They will transport you and they'll give you that time in Iceland that we're just not getting this year. So, yeah. Lilja, in the part where you are now in your trajectory as an author, yeah, how is it feeling to have a trilogy in English and now doing a standalone? Where do you feel that you're at?
Well, it's an interesting question because I mean it's always such a good feeling to finish something, and something like a trilogy or a series. I mean, to finish it is like gives you a sense of satisfaction, and I didn't know where to go after I finished the trilogy, so I started with Betrayal, and with the idea that it would be a new series, but it just didn't turn out that way. You know, it's writing is such an organic thing that I was just done after the book. It felt like a standalone. So that was how it went. And then I have in Iceland already published one book in a new series, and the other one is coming out next week. So so I'm already 2 books into a new series in Icelandic, but the English, it takes some time for Quentin to translate. So England is 2 years behind, but it could be 1 year behind, you know, if it was only Quentin, you know, because he's a super fast translator.
And that's a beautiful point, just to come to the translators. Vicky, you have translated the likes of Arnaldur Indriðason and Lilja Sigurdardottir and Ragnar Jónasson, Sean and Girða Eliasson. And I should also point out that in 2017 you were awarded, is it the Orsted?
Yes.
Literary Award. Could you tell us what that award you received? Why did you receive that?
That's a good question. They told me it was just a sort of lifetime award, so I assume it's all downhill from here. No, it was really nice. I just wanted to go back to all those people who said to me when I was a teenager, "Why are you learning Icelandic? You're mad. When are you going to get a proper job?" And I never did, but you know, so I get to wave the award now and say, "Look,
There was a reason." Totally, there was a method in that madness, exactly. Without a doubt. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for what you do, Quentin. I'm
totally award free in every way.
Oh, not at all, sir. Not at all.
Not long.
Yeah. You two have translated some of Ragnar's work. You have actually, have you not, translated Arnaldur's dad?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which, you know, so.
And Sigurjón Magnússon and Guðlaugur Arason.
Yeah, I just didn't say those names because I can't say them. So thank you, sir.
The most recent one was Einar Kárason. Yeah.
So again, I think, you know, Vicky and Quentin, you're so prolific in what you do. I've just got one question for you at the minute, though, Quentin. Working with Lilja, can I ask, did you know her well before you got to translate her?
Not really, no. We sort of clicked, didn't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like we'd known each other for forever when we met over Iceland Noir.
Yeah, I think we met just like a year before you started translating my books.
Yeah, but we had to push a bit, didn't we?
Yeah.
Beautiful, lovely. So there's a combination, an author and translator working together. Eva,
Lilja's translated me.
Has she as well?
I have translated a short story by Quentin into Icelandic.
Oh, look at this connections that are all going on. Vicky, Vicky, have you got any books that Eva Bjorg might be able to translate for you into?
No, writing is a mug's game. It's much easier to translate, as you know, Quentin.
Yes, you are entirely right.
I do not agree with that. I mean, translating is one of the hardest things I've done. I mean, I thought it was really, really hard work. And my respect for you translators has grown quite a lot, and it was, high before, but now it's, I just, to explain, I translated a short story by Quentin for the for the Icelandic version of Storytel, who is a streaming service for literature. And it's a crime story, very good one, but I found it incredibly hard to translate. It's just trying to get the tone across, and because it's not just turning the words from a language, it's so much more.
Because I found it incredibly hard to write. It's so long since I tried to write a short story that it was so hard to cram a whole story into 8,000 words. That was a real challenge for both of us.
It's a good story.
Thank you.
And I love this because Leanne's come on the chat and said, now we all want to read Quentin's short story. We most certainly do. Yes, we do.
Well, who knows? It might become a big story. It might become the basis for a big story. We'll see.
We'll see. We are ever, ever hopeful. But back to our books for this evening. So, Betrayal and Creak on the Stairs. You have a range of characters within each novel, but your main protagonists, so Ursula and Elma. And I wonder if you can, it might be a little bit tricky because your characters are certainly not one-dimensional. But Eva Bjorg, could you tell us a little bit about Elma? Who is she? And why do you think we should get to know her?
She is me, kind of. I mean, she was born in Akranes and went away, and she came back, which I didn't, and I'm not gonna go back to Akranes. I'm in Reykjavik now. But a part of me wants to go back. But I always find like small towns to be so interesting, because there's like a dynamic there that's hard to explain, and you kind of get stuck being who you were when you were a child, when you were figuring things out, and when you were a teenager and doing all this stuff that you don't want your adult friends to know about. So it's kind of stuck in this town, and everybody there, they have known you for like such a long time. So if you want to change, it's very hard because people all have these opinions about you. So well, that's kind of Elma's struggle in the book, just to come back and just accept who she is and who she was and who she is now, and I think that's also kind of something I think of. So
thank you for that. Lilja, Ursula also is coming back, is she not? Give us a little flavor of who she is and what her life is about.
Yeah, she's Ursula is a woman that has been working in international aid work. She's recently moved back to Iceland and is very traumatized and has post-traumatic stress disorder, and doesn't really find the everyday life in Iceland exciting enough. It just doesn't get her blood flowing. So when she's asked to take on a job as a minister of the interior, which is justice and transportation in Iceland, she jumps on it because it's 1 year. She's will be like an out of parliament minister, and she looks at it as a job that she can something that will engage her and get her like passion back, and she thinks she can be of use for some people, especially regarding immigrants and asylum seekers. So she takes the job, but it isn't all what she thinks.
Isn't all what she thinks. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to go back to Eva Bjorg and say, is that not the case for Elma as well? Because she's going back to what she thinks will be a quieter life, maybe.
Yeah.
And that notion is shattered. Without giving anything away, can you tell us what happens with regard to the job and what she has to do?
Yes, well, shortly after she starts the job there in Akranes, there's a body found by an old lighthouse in Akranes. A woman, mother of two, is found dead on the rocks there. So it's not very quiet.
Yeah, not at all. And then that investigation begins, and we'll come back to that again in a minute or so. I just want to ask the translators before we get a reading, and Quentin and Lilja, I'm going to ask you to do the first reading for me when we do the reading. Quentin and Vicky, your first impression when you met that main protagonist. So Vicky, you start to go through Creak on the Stairs in Icelandic and you meet Elma. What did you feel when you met this woman?
Great sympathy. I think she's described initially as somebody who blushes easily, comes out in blotches, and you can tell immediately that she's somebody who, doesn't find life that, she's not somebody who confidently comes into the new office, and she's a very human character, she just immediately, I think, engages your sympathy, and I really cared about her by the end. I don't always with crime novels, but I really cared about what happened to her and to the other characters.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Quentin, on meeting Ursula, after having ridden through the previous Reykjavik trilogy, what did it feel like coming to get to know this new character?
It took a little while for her to grow on me, to be honest. She came across as quite a hidden character to start with. You get to know her quite gradually through the book. But it was more the weirdos that struck me.
Are you calling my characters weirdos?
Yes. You do weirdos really, really well.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And in the next book, there's an absolutely fabulous weirdo. No, but the bad guy, whose name I won't say because I don't want to drop any spoilers, and the down and out guy, they were all beautifully drawn.
Yeah. Yeah, I when I was reading the books and thinking, for both of you, you have this ability, and I don't know whether it's because of your heritage with the sagas, but there is such, I don't know, the variety that you have in your characters, and you weave them all together so beautifully. And I wanted to know, do you have them all ready, a bit like a tapestry? Do you have all the threads ready before you start with these characters? Or as you go along, have you had other people come in that you had never even sort of like seen when you began? Eva Bjorg, how is it for you with that array of characters in Akranes?
Yeah, well, when I write characters and just like the story, it's such a mess. It's like, I don't know what happens, like one page at a time. I'm just writing. It's very organic, my writing process. So the characters just pop up and I don't know what their job is until I just write it. So I do a lot of editing. It's always, yeah.
Yeah, as you go along. And Lilja, is it the same for you? Do you need to go back and edit your characters, or do they just develop within the context of the work?
I usually don't edit much because I hate it. I like writing new stuff, and just to get rid of the editing process, I would write the whole book instead, truly. But I have a great editor, and she helps me to spot if something is off, or if a character or some plot line needs fixing. But I kind of plot nowadays. I plot the book halfway, and I know approximately where I'm going. But then, like Eva Bjorg says, it's an organic process, and you really don't know what happens. Sometimes I'm taking a completely different path to where I'm going than I expected, I'm sometimes quite surprised myself, you know, where the things lead me. But it's a fun process, and it's almost sometimes, you know, when you're in you're halfway through a novel and the story kind of takes over, it's almost like a magical thing, you know. It's quite wonderful, and sometimes I'm like I say, surprised myself.
Where it goes.
And then it's like it's a matter of trying to mold the story towards the ending that you want, you know, more than thinking up the plot lines. Is just trying to direct the story, you know.
Thank you for that. It's a perfect moment, given that with Agnes Ravatin and Michael J. Malone, and they did that short reading, and Karen and I thought it'd be really good if we could repeat that again this evening, where we get a small section from the authors in the original, and then the translators give us the English, and we can see what they both sound like, and plus it's just a fabulous excuse to hear some Icelandic, so that's no bad thing. So Lilja, I'm going to ask if you will begin for us. Do you want to set the scene at all, or do you just want to take us in there?
Yeah, I'll set the scene a bit. It's a chapter where one of the characters, who is a driver / bodyguard for the minister, is coming to her house to check on her because she left the ministry in a hurry, in a difficult circumstance, and he's going home to her home to check on her. Hann hringdi bjöllunni og bankaði svo ákveðið á hurðina, en þegar enginn kom til dyra, dró hann upp lykilinn og opnaði rólega, steig inn og lagði við hlustir. Það var hljótt í húsinu svo hann kallaði inn. Halló, Úrsúla? Hann fór úr skónum og lokaði á eftir sér og gekk rólega inn í átt að eldhúsinu. Úrsúla, þetta Gunnar hérna, bara aðeins að tékka hvort þú hafi komist heim. Ekkert svar. Hann gekk inn í stofuna. Þar var enginn, svo hann hélt áfram inn í eldhúsið þar sem allt virtist líkast því að hætt hefði verið við matreiðslu í miðjum klíðum. Þar satt Úrsúla á háum stól við morgunverðarborðið og andlit hennar var stíft af skelfingu. Það tók Gunnar augnablik að slíta af henni augun til þess að átta sig á að hún var ekki ein í eldhúsinu.
Thank you. Quentin, please could you reveal to us what that meant?
He rang the bell and hammered hard on the door. When nobody answered, he took out his key, gently opened it and stepped inside, listening for any sound. The house was silent, so he called out, Hello, Ursula. He slipped off his shoes, shut the door behind him and went towards the kitchen. Ursula, it's Gunnar, just checking you got home safely. There was no reply. Hello, anyone home? He called as he went into the living room. It was deserted, so he continued to the kitchen, where it looked as if someone had been interrupted in the middle of preparing a meal. Ursula sat there on a tall stool at the breakfast bar, fear etched deeply into her face. It took Gunnar a moment to wrench his eyes from her and to realize that she wasn't the only one in the kitchen.
We asked for it to be creepy. Thank you. That was creepy. Who is in the kitchen? Thank you both.
It does creepy pretty well.
However, I love the fact, I think we've got two rival authors here. I think they have a different rhythm. Okay, I think it works like this. I think Eva Bjorg's tension just keeps growing slowly throughout the novel, whereas Lilja does this really wicked thing of tension, and then you can relax again, and then it's tension, and then you can relax again. And I'm not sure which style is worse for the nerves. I'm really not. But anyway, we'll take a breath. And if we could get our second reading now. So Eva Bjorg, it's to you. Yes. Do you want to set the scene for us and tell us whereabouts we are in the novel?
Yeah, it's actually just in the beginning of the story when Alma is back at home, and she comes to Agnes kind of broken, and she just got out of a relationship, And it's when she's going to sleep and she's feeling kind of unsettled. So here it is. It's getting kind of dark outside. I can't see that. Like this. Gamalkunn myrkfælni hafði látið á sér kræla eftir að hún flutti inn á nýja heimilið sitt. Í þau skipti sem hún vaknaði þurfti hún iðulega á klósettið og á leiðinni á baðherbergið þar losnaði hún ekki við tilfinningun að einhver fylgdist með henni. Einhver sem stæði innst inni í ganginum frammi í myrkrinu þar sem engir ljósasturar lýstu inn gluggana. Hún þurfti að taka á öllu sínu til að hlaupa ekki inn í herbergi og draga sængina yfir höfuðið. Minna sjálfa sig á að hún var ekki lítil stelpa lengur. Minna sig á að alvöru illska leyndist ekki í myrkum hornum heldur í manninum sjálfum. Okay, that's that.
Okay.
Thank you. So, bearing that in mind, Vicky.
Her old fear of the dark had reared its head again since she'd moved into her new home. When she woke up in the night, she invariably needed a pee, and on the way to the bathroom, she couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching her, that someone was standing at the end of the hallway in the dark corner where no streetlights shone in. It took all her willpower not to run back to her room and pull the duvet over her head. She had to remind herself that she wasn't a little girl anymore, that the real evil wasn't to be found lurking in dark corners, but in the human soul. And I love that last line because it really sums up the book, I think.
Beautiful, yeah. The darkness that is hiding, that is to be found in the human soul. And I think, again, I think both of you really explore that. I think what I like is that your characters, it's not black and white. If I can come to you, Lilja, the title, Betrayal, and it's not just one betrayal of one person for another, is it? And again, and I don't need to give any spoilers, but why was it that you felt the need? It's like it's multiple throughout the text.
Yeah, I mean, betrayal is like a theme of the story more than you know, a single event. It's all kinds of betrayal. It's personal in a marriage, based on an adult in a you know, powerful position towards a younger person. It's about betrayal of politicians towards their voters. You know, betraying of promises of all kinds, and it's mostly about, you know, women's situation in Icelandic politics, which is quite interesting in our country that prides itself of being one of the most egalitarian in the world, and women's position is one of the best in the world here. But still, in that country, our women politicians have a very short life in politics, most of them. And they usually leave politics quite damaged, you know. So that's very interesting.
I wanted to ask you about the political situation because, as you say, the political world isn't necessarily drawn in a very positive way in your book. And I wondered to what extent, you know, doing your research, did you go and visit with politicians to find out how things were, and have they read the book, and what have they said to you about what you've done to their sphere?
Yeah, I do my research quite well. I interned a bit in the Interior Ministry or in the Ministry of Justice, and I know quite a few politicians, and some of them gave me a hand and some tips and answered questions and so on, and I have now gotten feedback from 5 either sitting or former ministers, and they are all very happy with the book. So that's like a relief, because I want my work to be to the professionals or the people I'm writing about. I want them to be able to read the book and you know, find it like it rings true, you know,
yes.
like it's truth-worthy, you know. But of course, it's a fictional story, you know, but set inside a world that I want to describe, you know, quite like it is. And it's The French have called it an Icelandic Borgen. You know, if you've seen the Danish TV show Borgen, so it's kind of that atmosphere. It's a little bit behind the scenes of what happens in a ministry.
Yeah.
Much
Thank
better
you.
than Morgan.
Oh, thank you.
And we can never have too many Sitsi Babette Knudsens. No. Anyway.
I agree with you wholly on that. Yes.
Oh, definitely. However, let's go back to Akranes, because Eva Bjorg, I want to ask you, in your novel, you have 3 time periods, do you not? 1989, 1992, and then 2017. Yeah. Think it roughly like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the one from it starts with 1989, and it's like a little girl. I think she's 6 years old at the time, Elizabeth, and it ends when she is, in 1992. So it's like all these years are growing up. Mm-hmm.
And so thinking of the changes that must have happened in Iceland between 1989 and then, you know, writing Elma in 2017. When you were doing your research, did you find any really interesting things about the Iceland of then that you were keen to put in the novel?
I think it was mostly like just how people think differently, like then and now, and especially because I'm writing about like abuse and violence and like what happens at your home, and I think back then people wouldn't talk about it that much, and now it's all these discussions and but then it was kind of like not spoken about. And like Elizabeth grows up with a mother that's alcoholic, and so I think that was also kind of like a taboo. So I think it's mostly that.
Thank you. I also think there's another link between the 2 novels, because in Betrayal, Ursula's dad was an alcoholic as well. So there's so many things. However, I want to bring it to a lighter moment before I bring up people's questions, because people have written in questions. And before we get too dark, you both include an animal in your story. Yeah, we have a cat and a dog, and I want to know, first of all, why did you put an animal in? Is this animal based on your own animals at all? And did the animal, third question, sorry, did the animal have a purpose other than just being a cute character?
Well, for me, the dog is owned by Sævar, who's a colleague of Elma, and he's kind of, he has a girlfriend in that book, but I think the dog is kind of his only friend, because he's he's kind of a loner there. I've never actually had a dog, so I don't I don't have any, like, I'm a cat person.
And Begga has a cat, doesn't she?
Yeah, and Becca has a cat.
Yeah. And I just thought I do like animals in novels. I think it's nice to bring them in. Those are the characters. Lilja, that dog must be based on someone.
Well, I don't know. It's a lovely little dog that Ursula loves dearly. Of course, I mean, I always must be thinking of my dear lovely Dr. Árni, who is my dog. Of course, I mean, some of this lovely dog's character must be based on him. But I wanted to, I mean, it's the dog is Ursula's soft spot, you know, because dogs give you this emotional nourishment, and this character is in the situation that she doesn't really connect with her own family. The dog is the only person or only one that she can feel any emotions towards. So I have these moments when these lonely moments during the night, etc., where she's alone with the dog. So yeah, just to give like a view of her emotional state in a way.
And I felt that with with both those dogs, that sense of whoever the dog is aligned with, they are not alone. That there is that warmth and that understanding and that loyalty and friendship. If you'll excuse me a minute, I'm going to put the questions up for me, and I know there's a whole raft of them here, so bear with me while I put them up, and I shall pass them out to whomever they may be for. So Leanne, thanks for your question, and you got that answered about this being Eva's first book, so that's good. And then Danielle, this is lovely. She says, hi everyone. She said, I've not read a full book for over 10 years. And then I watched Trapped, and then I heard about Ragnar's book, then Ilsa's, then Lilja's, then Quentin's, and looking forward to Eva's, and obviously Vicky's translations too. I'm now well and truly hooked on Icelandic noir. So just wanted to say thanks for getting me back into reading.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank
you.
That,
yeah. Isn't that beautiful? And then the question here for you, Lilja, it says, is there any news of the TV adaptation of your books yet? Danielle's missing Iceland so much and was meant to have an 8th visit in June. Fell in love with the country in 2006. She says, sorry for rambling. We totally understand it, Danielle. I'm with you all the way. So Lilja.
Yeah, the news is that film production must be the slowest business in the world. I am so grateful that I'm not a film producer, but the script writing has begun. So thank goodness. I'm crossing fingers that this will be on our screen soon.
Yes, that would be really. It's really good news to know that that at least the script is in production. So that is wonderful. And then Leanne points out that you both speak such good English. Do you read your book back in English once it's translated? And if you do, is there anything that surprises you? Eva Bjorg, have you read Vicky's translation?
Some of it. I've not. I hate reading my books back when I've put them out there. But no, I read. But I do read a lot in English. I have my Kindle and always download books. So, but yeah, maybe I should start reading it in English as well.
I think that's the thing, because hearing your voice, because I think this is what these fabulous translators do. When they have that ability to maintain your original voice in the text, then I just think that is a gift. That is just gold. For those of us that haven't got the ability to read Icelandic, we can still hear really what you're saying in that text, and I think that is fabulous. I love it. Lilja, do you read what Quentin has done with your text?
Oh yes, I read it through and I make notes and I send back to him. That makes me sound awful, but I'm not that picky really. I just I send a few comments. I mean, if there's maybe I sometimes use quite a lot of phrases and sometimes it's doesn't sound right or something, and I ask him. Usually my suggestions are really bad, so but Quentin usually fixes the things I ask him to fix. But
normally the result will be something else.
Yes, exactly.
It won't be what I wrote. It won't be what you suggest either. But there'll be a third solution that we're both happy with.
Exactly. But what I'm so happy with is that Quentin, I feel that he gets my tone, the voice kind of comes through, but it's really, really strange to read your own story in another language, because you recognize the story and it's your story, but it really feels like something else. And sometimes the chapters or the pieces of text that I am most happy with in Icelandic, I'm not so happy with in English. And then maybe chapters that I'm not so happy with in Icelandic, they become great in English. It's funny how it works. It's a different feeling for different things in different languages.
Yeah, it feels like reading a new book. It sounds so much more fancy in English, I think.
Yes, it does. Yeah, fancy. True.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But we have
Fancy
to remember
books.
as well, there is a third person in this as well. There is the editor as well.
Indeed. Yeah.
So what we write, what we translate isn't necessarily what makes it to the page.
That's true.
That extra element, that extra
West
ingredient.
Hamill's influence is very strong in all these books as well.
Yeah, big shout out to Wes Camel and the work that he does. It's really good. Vicky, just whilst we're in the translation mode, and just thinking of how you know, when you receive a text, how you approach it. And I wondered, having, you know, what contact do you normally have with authors that you translate? And did you have the same kind of back and forth, or however it is that you work with Eva Bjorg? Did it work like that? How did it go?
Oh yes, no, absolutely. I mean, one of the great pleasures, because I'm translating is such a, like writing, such a solitary job, and one of the joys is when you actually get to talk to another human being. And so I asked Eva when I was in Iceland, I asked her if we could meet up and have a coffee and just sort of talk to her. And one of the things I like to do is ask authors what they read themselves, because when you're trying to find their voice in English, I think you told me, for example, you'd been reading Gone Girl. And so I went away and read that because, you know, and I like to sort of say, if I'm translating you, I would look to read, say, a younger female author in English that would hopefully get me some words I might not be in my own vocabulary, you know, just to be more equivalent to your work. And then once I've done the first draft, I'll send questions to the authors. And so Eva and I had a back and forth. And then we might add a few details about landscape and things for foreign readers and just flesh out Akranes a little bit more. So Eva gave me wonderful material about the town, you know, and one of the joys about this book was the fact it was set not in Reykjavik. Yay!
Yeah.
So we got to go to Akranes, and so yeah, as always, I love working with all my authors. It's just a fantastic to and fro and really helpful and creative.
It's lovely to hear about your process. Yeah, I often say, you know, we get a finished product and we joyfully consume the finished product, but knowing, you know, the work that has gone into it so that we can. It's exciting to hear that. Thank you. Quentin, the next question on the list was for you, and it says, having translated authors, has it in any way influenced the way that you write? So you know, having worked with other authors, has it had any influence on you? That's Paolo. Thank you, Paolo. I like that question.
No, I don't think so. I'm just in awe of Lilja's productivity. I wish I could pump books out as quickly as she does. How do you do it? How's it done?
Just lots and lots of coffee.
Well, yes. Yeah, that helps as well. No, I don't think it's changed the way I write, but I would have to, because I'd already been writing my own stuff before I started translating Lilja and Ragnar. So I think I would have to write something else to find out if it changes the way I write or not. And then it wouldn't be for me to say. It would be for the reader to let me know. Yeah,
have they detected that? I think, you know, I think if it's all right, please, can I give your series a plug? If anybody's not read Quentin's Icelandic books with the most amazing protagonist, Gunnhilda, honestly, seriously, if you love Icelandic crime fiction, get that man's books. Anyway, forgive me while I just go back into the questions. I'll get them up. So this is a question from Duncan Beatty. And it's quite a chunky one. It's lovely. He says, how have Arnaldur Indriðason and Lilja Sigurdardottir influenced you and opened the door for you and other Icelandic crime writers?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. That's
just a big resounding yes, they have. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if either of you, Lilja or Eva Bjorg, if you want to add anything more to that, or is it just a Oh, yes, they have.
Yeah. I think. I mean, Arnaldur is such a huge influence for all of us Icelandic writers. I mean, he was such a pioneer in the way of promoting Icelandic crime fiction to the world, and he showed everyone that this was possible, that we had something to offer to the world of crime fiction, to the international world of crime fiction. And I always read his books, and I think they're so good. Yrsa has also been quite the influence for me, because she showed us all that women could do this as well and have international success. Of course, other Icelandic women had done crime fiction before, but none of them had been internationally successful. And Yrsa and Arnaldur have been so good to us younger authors, and helped us a lot, and been so absolutely generous and lovely in promoting us and guiding us, showing us the way. So yeah, big influences, and both of them are among my favorite authors.
Do you feel the same, Eva Bjorg?
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have anything to add. I agree. I do. Yeah, they just. I grew up reading Yrsa's children's books actually. So then she turned to crime, and I've read them both every year. So.
I think it's beautiful to be able to have people who are still alive. You know, if you think in English, French crime fiction, and those founding writers, or those foundation stones, sadly are long gone. But you have the people with you who began this fabulous phenomenon, and that's wonderful. Anyway, I'll stop getting too emotional about this and get on to the next question. Lilja, I think it'll be for you. It's from Mary App, and she says, I always thought Iceland had women in politics sorted. Is Icelandic politics really just as patriarchal and backstabbing as it is in the rest of the world?
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, I would love to give another answer. I mean, we've had great. We have great many, Icelandic parliamentarians. Some years it has been almost 40% of the parliament have been women, but their life in politics, like I said before, seems to be much shorter, and they get so much harsher criticism. And this is one of the things I am writing off in my book Betrayal, is that the men in Icelandic politics of course they get criticized as well for their decisions and their job, but they get kind of criticism, but the women tend to get hatred when they do something wrong in the public opinion, or not a good enough job, and so on. So this is what my book is about, is that and it's an interesting thing to say, and maybe answers the question a bit, is that the quotes that I make in the book, the messages, the abusive messages and the emails and stuff that you get, this I just cut and paste from the Icelandic media from the comments in the media about Icelandic female politicians. And there seems to be that criticism tends to go into threats of violence quite quickly. And this is a very interesting thing, and it's people are talking about this and asking themselves, is it some kind of a backlash towards the equality, or is the equality more on the surface, and underneath is something else altogether?
Thank you for that, Lilja. Karen, have we reached that moment?
No, I think we've got a few more minutes. I just thought I'd pop in. That's
lovely to see you. There's some more questions, especially regarding translation, and I wonder, have I got time to pose those, Karen? Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay. So Vicky, Quentin, the English that you use, and I wonder as well whether Arenda has a style this is somebody's question that they've sent in, between British English and American English, translating certain things that just don't exist and things like that. How do you approach it? Vicky, do you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, no, it depends really on the publisher and whether it's something that's being produced with America, whether there's going to be a separate American. I mean, my ideal is that we have a British edition and then the Americans take it and take away all the horrible British things and put in lovely American English, you know, and vice versa, because you know, it's very difficult to write mid-Atlantic English when you're doing dialogue and it's meant to be relaxed dialogue.
Yeah. Or
mild swearing. How do you do that? I don't know what your answer is, Quentin.
I don't do mild swearing, I just do swearing.
I think personally that the people that read translated literature are intelligent and can probably work out English that is from England or American English, and it doesn't really matter. We all read books from America, they all read books from here, and I don't think it matters anymore. I think it's a very transatlantic culture. So I don't think it would be an issue.
And Karen, you don't have a sort of like a style sheet that says.
We have a house style sheet, but we don't really worry about that. I mean, that happens at copy editing stage.
I've never seen the house style sheet.
Well, that's because Wes Campbell looks after that for you.
Oh, okay.
And quickly in on this other translation question. So to Vicky and Quentin, do you stay as close as possible to the actual text? Do you have any leeway to adapt, if there is, to express the intended scene or emotion differently in English in dialogue with the authors? Or would it be more a thing that the copy editor that maybe Wes Campbell would deal with?
The hardest thing to translate is idioms and jokes. So you do have this dilemma at some point, especially with a play on words. And what do? Do you translate it directly? In which case it's faithful to the text, but it's not funny. So you're departing from what the author wanted there, or you come up with something different, which is funny, which is what the author wanted, but it departs from the text. So you have a dilemma there, and essentially you have to take a bit of you have to decide on the day, and then the editor gets to look at the editor takes a final decision on it anyway. But yeah, these things crop up in every book, but there aren't many jokes in Icelandic books though. So
there are. Sometimes there are too many because they are a nightmare to translate. Yeah, no, I think I do translate more freely now than I used to, just because I want to try and get something that reads like an English text without losing, the important parts of the Icelandic original. And particularly just because so many things in Icelanders take for granted. You say a farm. Every Icelander knows what an Icelandic farm looks like, but your English reader will be imagining something completely different. So I do think it's our duty as translators to help the English reader see a little bit more of what an Icelandic reader is seeing naturally, and I do that with the author.
And everybody in Iceland knows what Esja looks like, but you have to tell them, it is the mountain that's across the bay.
And we've done that with our books a lot, Lilja, haven't we? Do you remember we had to go back and describe the journey? Look, what are you seeing out the window? I remember with Ragnar in particular, because he was, of course, one of the first, apart from Ersa and another, to be translated. And we were saying, you're writing for an Icelandic market here. We want to know what you're eating, what the snow, don't just say snow. We want to know what it looks like. We want all of that detail that transports us to another country, because that's what we all love so much about reading this kind of fiction.
Totally.
And I wonder, 1 minute left.
1 minute left. Can we finish on a very joyful moment, other than to say the four of you for writing these books and translating these books? Well, and the five of you, Karen, for publishing them. Thank you so much. There's one person, Angie, who's commented that has said, I have fallen in love with Icelandic noir due to these two books. Thank you. All right. So this,
And Jacky, thank you so much. You've done an absolutely amazing job of introducing these authors to our amazing participants or our amazing attendees here. This is kind of a bittersweet event, isn't it? Because it just reminds me how much I miss Lilja and Eva and Quentin and Victoria and you, Jacky. But what I really love seeing here is the chat between everyone who's here watching with us. And I hope you'll all come along again and join us for another launch. We've got a few coming up. Possibly even another Icelander, Ragnar Jonasson, will hopefully be joining us at some point. I can hardly see Eva there in the dark. She's looking very, very forbidden Iceland over there. But I just wanted to remind you that we do have exclusive signed copies at Warwick Books, and that's www.warwickbooks.net. But it's been an amazing evening. These are fantastic books, fantastic authors. Jacky has done a fantastic job, and these translators have given us books that we would totally be unable to read without their skill and their talent and their services. But I'd also like to thank you all for coming this evening. I can see some familiar names there, and it's wonderful to see. We're really grateful for your support, and I think that's it from us. Oh, I know, one more thing. We're going to we have recorded this. So if you would like to watch it again, I'm sure you do. No, if you want to share it with other people to introduce these authors to new readers, we'd be very grateful. We'll have it on our YouTube channel. It's just Arenda Books at YouTube, and also on our website. But anyway, thanks for coming. It's been a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is when we have to